Okay, so to complete the second part, we still have to create a chart. So you're gonna use the scatter chart with smooth line of Excel to display the probabilities and NPVs for each case. And in this chart, you should have 5 columns for 5 cases, and the horizontal axis stands for the NPV, and the vertical axis stands for the probability. So I want you guys to take a look at these two charts. So one chart is using um, this part of Excel is called a bar chart. Okay, this is a bar chart, and this is the correct format. That's the scatter chart with smooth line. Okay, so the difference between these two, first, the bar chart is very easy to construct. Okay, it can just take 1 minute, but this scatter chart could take 10 minutes to construct. But why the scatter chart is better? Let me do an experiment. Suppose that my NPV here for the best case, instead of $1.9 million, I change it, okay, to $3 million. Let's say $30 million, and see what's going to happen. Okay, so what you see here is on the bar chart, it doesn't change anything except the label for the NPV is changed. You see the x-axis is for NPVs and the y-axis is for the probabilities, and the bar chart just recognize the NPVs as a label, as a name. However, for the scatter chart, which is better, you see the increasingly large number is reflected in the chart, as the best case is too high, and you see it's too remote from the rest of the cases. Maybe 30 million is too much. Just change back to 3 million. Okay, so you see it's 3 million, and if I recoup, okay, so that's 1.9 million. So let me show you one more time. If I change to 3 million, you see this actually shift to the right. I can do the same thing here, change it to 1 million. Okay, it also shifted, but nothing changes on the bar chart. So that's why this scatter chart is a much better tool. So now let me teach you how to do this scatter chart. So what I do here is I'm going to delete this bar chart. I'm not gonna create that one, and I will replicate this chart I have here. So first of all, make sure the NPVs are in place. These are the correct numbers as your previous setting, and all the probabilities are correct. Okay, we need to compute the data first. So the data for each of the column in the bar chart is consist of 2 data points. So for example, this column is for the worst case. And how do we define the worst case? We're gonna have 2 points. One point is on the top and another point is down the bottom. They both have an x value and a y value. So the top point, the top data point's x value is whatever the NPV is, and the y value is its probability of 10%. And the bottom point has the same x value, the NPV, and the probability, however, the y value is 0%. You see, they have the same x value, but the y value for the top point is 10%, for the lower point is 0%. Likewise, for the second case, for the second column on the chart, you see the x value is 20%, and the y for the top points, and I'm sorry, the y value is 20% for the top, and the y value for the bottom is 0%, and they both have the same x value, which is the negative $360,000 NPV. Likewise, for this column, we have 2 points to make the whole column. One has a x value of 500 NPV, 500,000 NPV, and 40% y value. And another point has still 500,000 NPV, but y value is 0. So on and so forth. You can derive for the other 2 columns. So that means for each column, I will need 2 data points and 2 x values and 2 y values. So I can just go with this data point So you have a x1, and you have a y1, and you have x2. It's better to do this. And you also have a x2, and you have a y2. Okay, so that's how we define these two data points. The thing is, let's do the first case, for example. So what is the x1? The x1 for the first case is the NPV. So I just put a equal to its NPV, right? Make sure it's a linked cell to its NPV. And for the y value, I'm sorry, and this one is also for that. And for the y value, one equals to 10%, and another basically equal to 0. Okay, so that's for the worst case. And for the below average case, again, you're gonna need a x1, x2, y1, and a y2. Okay, so x1, this is a x1, y1, this is a x2, y2. Okay, you have 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2. How do we incorporate that? So the x values are all these NPV values. Okay, equals to NPV. The y value, y1 is the percentage, and y2 is 0. And do the same thing for the base case. Do the NPV. Okay, that's x1, x2, and oops, this is NPV, and then this equals to 40%, and this is 0. Okay, and then you do for above average, so that equals to the NPV of the above average case. Okay, and then for one x value is 20%, another value is 0. I'm sorry, it's the y value. And then you do for the best case, okay, the same x values, and the y value is 10% and 0%. Oops, 0%. Okay. All right, so now we have the data points. That's 1 point for, so this is data point 1, and this is data point 2. And 2 data points are good enough to determine a line. Well, that's elementary geometry. And then we apply the chart. So what I want you guys to do is to go to insert. Okay, you see insert right here, and you will see all the chart options. And I want you guys to select this little icon. It's called an insert scatter chart, and there are also many selections down here. I want you guys to select this one, scatter with straight lines. Okay, scatter with the straight lines. Okay, so now the chart is created, so you can move it here, and then all you need to do is to put in all the data in this chart. Okay, so I'm going to right click on this chart. Okay, right click, not outside the chart. If you right click on the outside chart, you get nothing. So you need to right click on the chart and do select data. And then you are going to add 5 series. The first series is called a worst case. Just put in there. And then the x values are the x values for data point 1, data point 2. And do so for y value. And then you will see a line is inserted there. Okay, so that's a success. And then you keep add another series. Okay, this is called a below average. You can simply move to the top and click on this name bar, and that name will be automatically inputted. Okay, And the X values would be this two NPVs, same value. Y values would be the two different probabilities. Okay, so you have another, if you look at the chart, line inputted here. Okay, you have another line inputted here. So for the time being, I'm going to move fast because it's just simply a replication of what I just did. Okay, let me delete this chart. Okay, and you don't need to see this. It's not your requirement. So just hide it. You don't need that. Or I just delete them. Okay, and then even though I jump out in the middle, I can still go back in. I right click and do select data. All right, you see I just keep adding more series. The third series is a base case. The X values are here, all the NPVs, and the Y values are here, 40% is 0. Okay, and then I add another one. This is above average. The X values are here, the 1.1 million, and then the Y values are the true percentages. Okay, and then add another one. Base case, the X values are this 1.9 million NPVs, two of them, and then the Y value would be the 2%. Okay, now we're done with the data input. So you can use the chart and cover it. You don't need to show all the data. When I grade you, I can just move around the chart to see the data behind. Okay, and now we need to do some window dressing work because these are essentially straight lines and they're not bars and they're not thick enough to make it presentable. So what I do here is I just right click on each of the line, and then or you can left click, that's also fine. And then you will see this format data series come out. Okay, and you have all these options, and I want you to do two things. One is to change the width from 1.5 pounds to 15 pounds. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. And you can see right now it's look very funny because the top is round, and I want you to change the cap type to square. Okay, now it looks better. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing for another line. Okay, first you change the width from a line to a column, and then you change the top from round to square. Do the same thing, 15 pounds, and then square. Okay, and then this one, have to click 15 pound and then square. Okay, and this one, square, 15 pounds. Okay, then you are pretty much have the 5 columns, and you can leave it like this, have different colors, or you have your own preference. You can always choose the color. You can make this green if you like. Oh, sorry, you can make first left click on the column, make sure it's the column clicked, not the background. That's what I did wrong. You need to make sure the column is clicked, and then you change the color to green. Okay, and you can be very imaginary, and you just change all the colors to a uniform color, or 5 different colors is all your call. It doesn't matter to me. And then to finish up this chart, you can change a layout. I want a name for the y-axis and I want a name for the x-axis. And this is what you can do. So you click this chart again, and I want you to double click. Okay, double click, and then you will see on the ribbon there is a quick layout button, and I want you to hit that one, and then I want you to hit right here. Okay, you see you have 11 layouts, and I want you to hit the top left one, layout number 1. Okay, and now you can do some editing work. All right, so you see the top is the chart title. you can see you can change the name to scenario analysis of NPV. Okay, and the Y title, change it to NPV, and the X title, I'm sorry, the Y is the probability. My apologies. Probabilities, and the X is NPVs. And this part is called legend. As you can see, all the names for different cases are in there, and you can format the legend. You can choose to put the legend down up the top or down the bottom. Okay. Okay, I think the top is good. All right. So now you're finished with this chart. Okay. To verify it, you can change some numbers, play around a little bit. For example, you have this 1.9 for the best case NPV. You change it to a $3.9 million. As you can see, this bar, the column for best case, actually shift to the right to reflect the newest update of the value. Okay, so that's my purpose.